Well, hello again. Another mystery engine for you. Well, slightly mysterious, but to those who know, it will be plain what it is. Because it says nothing on the crankcase, no make, no capacity, we deduced that it's a PAW, Progress Aero Works, who like keeping their lights under bushels. But they are distinctive in a sense. The next question is, what size is it? It could be a 2.5 or it could be a 3.1. I think they're both shared, if not an identical crankcase, a very similar one. I think the fins are slightly different. Then there's been several marks, Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3 of these engines. This I think is a quite old one, whatever it is. I bought it from somebody who wasn't dead sure what it was. He was selling it for a friend. So I, in order to find out the capacity, I took it to bits and I thought I'd give you a quick run through of some of the main PAW features, which are not obvious. They look like any other diesel of the day, but they are extremely well made, extremely powerful for their size. So there's a standard cylinder head held on by 3 screws, liner, contrapiston, that comes out. I think a little mark on the liner to give you the front, maybe not. We'll come back to the liner in a minute. Piston with a cone on top. Whoops. As I say, I've had this to bits, so it's falling apart. Standard piston, nothing great. The exception about that, probably shallowish for the day. But to get back on track, I measured the bore and approximately measured the stroke, and it is in fact the 19D, the 3.1 cc. Like every PAW I've had before, the back plate is on extremely tight, but I managed to subject this to fire torture. It's had a bit of use, as you can see. A solid conrod, as in strong. A pretty big little end, but with quite a bit of play in it. It's had a lot of use. Solid crankshaft, big intake port there, which goes somewhere in accounting for the power of this thing, and it's a beveled on that front bit which drives the fuel backwards, I suppose. Counterbalanced crank, end of the crankshaft, forgotten the name of it. That's the crank pin, that's the web. Hole for lubrication, and I think if I've got that the right way around, you will be able to see there's a lot of play in that. A lot of play, never mind. Looking at the crankcase, we can see it's got a ball race there, but a plain bearing at the front. So this is a single bearing, not twin bearing. And interestingly, if you look at the PAW website, the current models they make, that's quite nice and free. The current 19 they make a single ball race still and a twin ball race. According to their website, the single ball race puts out more power than the twin. Now, that surprises me. It may be an error, it might be correct, but if anybody knows why that is the case, I'd be very interested to know. Scepter Flight Review says that's a Hoffman ball race, very common in the early days. and it says it's an 8-ball race. Well, I can count 10 there, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. Standard Venturi needle valve. Interestingly, there's a T there stamped on the lug, which should mean twin bull race, which is odd. TBR is the abbreviation that PAW use, and there's a 1 possibly there, meaning probably it's a Mark 1 engine. So this is probably 60s even. Coming back to the liner, this is part of the secret of the PAW power. The transfer passages are somewhat fluted, I think, and they extend right to the base of the liner, which makes for very thin contact there. Peter Chin said that theirs on test distorted that, because it does get damn hot, this engine, but it didn't affect performance. So like all PAWs, most of them, I think there's no gaskets, and there's very little chance of getting one down there, looking at the thinness of that ledge on which the liner sits. There's probably no point in putting a gasket here. It would just give more play on the crankshaft. So when I put it back together, I'm going to see if I can move that collet yon way, so that when we put on the prop driver, we have a bit less end play, I think they call that. So that's my little PAW. It's well worn, well sorted, but it does run, except when compression fades a bit, I found it need to use an electric starter motor. It doesn't respond very well to my pathetic flick. So there we are, PAW 19. I did have a 1.5 years ago, which I posted a video about to instruct a fellow called Nathan how to run a diesel, and it got 60,000 views in about 3 days. I don't know how that happened. I certainly can't claim it was anything to do with the video. Something viral happened. There we are. PAW 19 runs pretty well. Maybe we'll get a video of it going when I sort it. But until then, take care, y'all. Thanks.